Before we start, just a quick reminder. The views and content shared on this podcast are for informational and entertainment purposes only and are not a substitute for professional advice. Please check the full disclaimer in the show notes for more information.
Welcome to Self-Centered, the podcast that's all about you. We're your hosts.
I'm Allie, a therapist and life coach.
And I'm Katie, a fitness coach and personal trainer. We know what it's like to feel burnt out, taken for granted, and like your life revolves around everyone but yourself.
By learning to trust yourself, prioritize your needs, and set healthy boundaries, we help you break free from guilt, overfunctioning, and toxic patterns that keep you stuck in relationships and a life that doesn't truly serve you.
Join us each week as we dive into the tools, stories, and mindset shifts you need to create a life that centers you.
Because being self-centered isn't selfish, it's essential. Today, we're going to talk about the whole point of the podcast. And where the idea of self-centered came from, that name specifically. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you came up with it, but I think that staying in your seat is how you came
I think it was definitely a layer involved with it. I wouldn't say it was the only thing, but I definitely think that when you taught me staying in your seat, my mind was just like, oh my God. It was such a clear tool to say, this is yes, and this is no. And this is how I can continue to orient myself within my relationships and my life and my choices and not be overextending myself in a bad way.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting because I was thinking about this episode and I was thinking, for staying in your seat, there's so much more to it than what we have talked about. So I'll go a little bit.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear this
too. Because I think really what you and I have talked about is the analogy of you're sitting in your seat. That's where you're centered. You're grounded in yourself and what you can do. And then if people need things from you, or for all of us overambitious girlies, maybe I won't say overambitious, ambitious girlies, we have our own drive to do too much maybe. You think about, okay, well, what can I do while staying in my seat? Maybe I can reach out and grab someone's hand to help them. Or I have the energy for this, the energy for that kind of thing. But I need to be able to stay in my seat. Yes, you can stretch, but then there's a limit on that. If you get up out of your seat to go walk over to someone to help them, then now you're not grounded. Now you're not centered. And when the storms of life happen, you can get knocked over because your center of gravity is out of whack. You're not in your spot. And so it really is, yes, about not overextending ourselves. And when we have empathy and we care so much about other people and we don't want to overdo it, and we think to ourselves, well, I can do it, right? And it's like, okay, well, you can do it, but then you'd be harming yourself. So there's that piece of staying in your seat. But I also think there's the mental part of staying in your seat, which is you also want to be mostly seeing things through your own point of view. Those of us with a lot of empathy tend to leave our own experience to go experience things through the eyes of someone else. And if we hang out through someone else's perspective for too long, then we get disconnected from ourselves. And again, we're not centered in ourselves. And that's when we lose self-trust.
I love that. It's funny, when I remembered initially the staying in your seat, the biggest thing that stuck out for me was don't overextend yourself and what is within your arm's reach.
Yes.
And that's reasonable, right? That's reasonable for you to say, okay, I can, reach out and grab this, or I can, extend myself to help this by staying in my seat. What I forgot about, that I'm so glad that we're talking about, because it just is amazing to me, is putting yourself in other people's shoes too heavily. And as someone that is an aggressive people pleaser, an aggressive empath, that I am so guilty of, right? It's so easy to stop and say, oh, but like, what would their experience and how would they feel if I did this, that, or the other? And like, I don't want to put them out, but then that puts me out so much more that's beyond reasonable. And we can meet in the middle somewhere for most things, right? And if we can't, well, then that's not, that's a good guide.
And I think, again, one of the themes that will keep coming up in all of these episodes is we want to be good, right? We want to be a good person. And we often are thinking through other people's point of view. I literally visualize getting in someone's body and then seeing myself and my actions through their filters, through their interpretations. And we do that because we're thinking about how it's going to impact them, which is partially because we have good hearts. That's good. But I also think then we lose, well, what do we need? And that can lead to us abandoning ourselves and just being really confused about what is going on in this situation. How did I get here? It's a slippery slope when we're interacting with people who want to take advantage too.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm having so many like mental flashbacks to experiences in my life where I was like, oh, wow. Like had I just stayed in my seat in that moment, I would have prevented like one, all the anxiety, two, the relationship fallout that happens because there's, no longer equal measures or the expectations have changed because you consistently get out of your seat.
Right.
And so maybe the other person, whether that's a friend or a family member or a significant other, doesn't understand anymore why your habits have changed. It's like, oh, damn, it really does start with ourselves. Of prioritizing ourselves, creating that clear expectation, that boundary. And wow. Oh boy, I'm excited. This is good.
Love you. Yeah, definitely. And what you're touching on is some of what happens when we don't stay in our seat. And so, yes, it sets a precedent in our relationships, right? It sets an expectation. And we don't say it out loud. Oh, I'm going to overfunction. I'm going to abandon myself and take care of you. But that's what ends up happening. And unless we are in relationships with people who are very actively, intentionally trying to make sure that it's balanced, then it is going to lead to imbalance. And then it's so much harder to change that pattern. And there's a lot of relationship fallout that can happen. But I also think about before I learned to stay in my seat and even learned that I was out of it, right? Living out of it, away from it. First of all, I didn't know there were so many toxic people in my life. But now in retrospect, I'm like, oh, the reason that I had all these toxic people in my life is because I accommodated them by leaving my seat. And it got to a point in my life where I had so many friends. I had my family who were all expecting that I was just going to constantly drop everything to take care of them. And at the time, too, I was a school social worker, which is you're literally dealing with crises and taking care of everyone else. And it got to a point where I had a moment where I couldn't see in a meeting. Everything was black. Like the stress was just really impacting me. And I realized my life is now basically trying to figure out how to divvy up my limited energy that is constantly being drained just as at a baseline by all of these, trying to meet all these expectations. But it's really taking that limited energy and figuring out, how do I keep everyone happy? So it just became survival. And it got to a place where I realized I can't keep living like this. It truly isn't a choice anymore. And I did start having suicidal thoughts. And at the time, a really central figure in my family, their needs were just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and just swallowing me up. And I kept thinking, oh, I'll just meet their needs in the short term, right? I'll just take care of them, do whatever they want, even though I'm exhausted, because then it'll buy me rest, basically. But then they just became needier and needier. And so it got to this place where I was like, my life isn't mine anymore. I cannot live like this. But then I was terrified to set bigger boundaries. And so I went to therapy to deal with that. But I realize now in retrospect that not staying in my seat basically, yes, led to accommodating people who could only fit with me. They were only compatible with me because I was abandoning myself.
Yeah. Oh, so when you brought that up, one of the things that came up for me that I think will come up for a lot of people who share our thought in terms of like wanting to be a good person, you're going to let so many people down when you stay in your chair. And that as a core of a person who's like a perfectionist, who is a people pleaser, who, wants to maintain all of these positive relationships, I think about when I have to say no, the disappointment that the other person is going to experience. And then I feel like that ends up becoming a reflection on myself. And I'm like, oh, I've just bummed this person out. Now they won't think the same way of me. And even before that moment, when you were explaining like, okay, I have all these friends and I have these family members and like all these relationships and this job and these places that are pulling me in different directions. If someone was to look from the outside in, they'd be like, man, she's probably got it all going on, right? She's got all of these people in her life, this great support network. But you're the one holding it up with all of your arms spread out like one of those torture devices in a million different directions. And it's like, in order to bring yourself back, there's a really painful period that you have to say no. And that you might lose people and you might disappoint people. And actually you probably will. But is that pain, is that going to be more or less greater than the disappointment that you would have for yourself if you didn't? And like, for me, in many of the situations that I can think of, relationships and, creating boundaries in workplaces and that sort of thing, where I had to take a step back and, okay, how do I stay in my chair in this moment? I know I'm going to disappoint somebody right now. The overwhelming thought was, okay, but can I live with myself if I'm disappointed in myself for not doing that, for not staying true to myself? Like, that was such a big realization. And I like, when you're looking at that side by side of, oh, it feels really hard to stay in my chair right now. It feels really hard for me to say no, really hard for me to create this boundary. Going back to, okay, who you are, who do you want to be for you? What does that look like? And say, would this person being you, your ideal version of yourself, would this person be proud of me if I make this next choice? Would that be in alignment with the person that I say I'm going to be, right? Oh,
yeah. Like with what takes care of me. And when we're on autopilot, what's happening is we are making the choice that gets rid of the discomfort in the moment.
Yeah.
Right? Which is doing whatever I need to do to keep those relationships, to keep them happy with me, to feel good about myself and not feel guilty. But what you're saying is, and I agree with it, is that what that leads to in the long run then is you're not staying true to yourself and you're not aligned with your values, right? You're out of alignment. And we want to feel good about ourselves because I think part of feeling good about yourself is, yes, I'm a good person because I'm in alignment with my values and I'm kind. I also think we want that kindness to come full circle. So I'm kind to myself too, right? So self-respect is I'm honest with myself. I'm honest with others. I hold boundaries with others. I hold boundaries with myself. And we want to look at the big picture. We want to look at the long run. And what is this going to do? We want a life that includes people who we don't need to accommodate and abandon ourselves for. So if we're going to lose some of those people and they're going to be angry, that's probably progress, even though it doesn't feel good. And you might feel guilty. But if you look at that guilt, if you look at the situation, you say, I'm actually not doing anything wrong by taking care of myself, then it's important to recognize, yes, you might have that feeling, but it's noise, right? That feeling is not a signal that you're actually guilty. It's just noise, right? And so we want to tolerate the discomfort in the short run so that in the long run, we can have a better life.
Yeah. I love that. So when you, I don't know if you know, but like when the first time that you experienced the impact of staying in your chair, like how did you gauge, is this a decision that keeps me in my chair or is it not? Like what was your criteria? Like how did you figure that out for you?
Yeah. So for me, and it's so funny because I just came up with that off the cuff in a workshop that I was doing, and I didn't even plan to talk about it. And then,
this is the start of a Mel Robbins moment, honestly.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it just became relevant because someone was asking about something, and I said, "Oh," and then I came up with that analogy, and then I was living with you and told you, "Oh, yeah, this is what came up. Pretty cool." And you're like, "Wow, that's pretty cool."
Yeah.
So for me, so when I started setting boundaries, it was terrifying. And I knew I had to do that because it was pretty extreme. But in everyday life, right, outside of the context of a very extreme situation, in everyday life, I learned to stay with my feelings and my experience. So I think the mental comes first, right? Like the internal comes first of, I call it red light, green light. I tune into literally the physical sensations in my body. So it's like, when I think about, let's say someone asks me to do something, or I have my own urge to do something because I am ambitious, I will imagine and visualize, just because I'm a visual person, what doing that would be like. And I tune into what is my body doing? What are the physical sensations? And if it's tight, if it's hard, like tense, if it's hard to breathe, if I feel anxious, so tightness in my chest, kind of, I guess, butterflies in my chest a little bit. That for me is you shouldn't do it. And that happens a lot. It still happens especially in the context of other people, because I do have the moment where I go to their experience, which is fine, right? That's called perspective taking. So this isn't all or nothing, just for everyone listening. It's good to perspective take and think about what would your impact feel like for other people, but then you want to come back to yourself. So this happens a lot with other people where I don't want to do something and I know they want something from me that I don't want to give them. So usually it's red light is tightness. No, you don't want to do that. And a lot of the times I want to override it because I'm like, no, I don't want to make them feel bad or whatever it is. And I have to validate myself basically and say that was a red light.
Yeah.
That was a red light. And green light, for those listening, for me is I feel excited, I feel energized, I'm relaxed. And so that's a yes for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you base it more so on the feeling within your body. Do you, I mean, obviously, I would imagine for many of our viewers as well, it's checking in with what do you actually have capacity for without extending yourself beyond it means, right? Like I look, I look at within my own life and it's like, okay, if I was to do this thing, yes, there's a feeling maybe of dread. If it was something that was getting me out of my chair, right? I'm feeling of dread. And what does it take away from me too? Like, for me, I have a really packed schedule, right? And I think many people experience the same way, right? Really packed schedule, all the things going on. And if I was to extend myself outside of my chair, I would be taking away not just from the like, oh, well, this is like my free time and I don't like have plans for this, or, like it's an easy give. I would be taking away from things that are vital to my existence, right?
Yes.
And like that's a super baseline level of it, because obviously we don't want to take away from our basic needs.
Yeah.
But I think we can extend that to okay, if it's more than a basic need, but it's something that brings me joy and someone is asking me to give it up in order to give them something.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably not staying in my chair either.
Right. Yes, definitely. Thinking it through, is really good. I just think the body doesn't lie. So if you, and we tend to be intellectualized, right? We tend to go back and forth in our heads and argue with ourselves. So if you're doing that, red light, green light is really helpful because the body does not lie. And yes, thinking about how is this going to impact me? Is this going to give to me or take from me? And it's okay if things take from you as long as it's within your values and there is some type of return on that investment. I think people would hear that and say, well, that's selfish, right? You should just give freely. But I think those of us who give freely really because it feels good and because it aligns with our values and we love loving people. So it is still giving something to you, right? And you wouldn't do it if it was going to hurt you. I have a good example of thinking things through, a recent example of staying in my seat. And one of my friends said, oh, it would be really great if you did a group for moms or like a workshop for moms. So we'll meet weekly. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, I had so many great ideas. And throughout the next few weeks, I got even more ideas. And I'm like, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be so good for them. And it's within my mission of helping people be self-centered, because women, and especially moms, are really taught to martyr themselves, to sacrifice themselves, right? And so I really wanted to do, okay, let's come back to you. Let's stay in your seat. Let's tune into your bodies and let's figure out, what do you want your life to look like? And what do you need to be happy, right? Like, not just what do you need to survive, but what do you need to be happy? And let's put that first. So I was really excited from a values perspective. But then I realized I don't want to. I started to dread it. And I was like, how am I going to fit this into my schedule? Okay, well, really the only time that I can do it would be outside of the workday, because I have a full client schedule and I don't want to give up a night, and I don't want to put the time into prepping every week. And I was thinking, oh, well, I'll just explain to my friend that right now I'm prioritizing other things because I'm creating this podcast with Katie. And then I realized in some universe that might be true, that really, oh, it's just a priorities thing. But actually, I don't want to do that ever.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't know that until I got out of my head and went into my body, because I thought to myself, and again, visualizing, okay, imagine a few years out, the podcast is something that we just have down. It's a routine, and we're not putting a ton of effort into figuring it out. And I can free up some time and energy for this moms group. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't want to do it then either. And then I noticed my head. So this is another thing for those of you listening: watch your thoughts, just observe them, right? And don't judge your thinking, just watch it. Because what my thoughts started doing was saying, oh, well, this is part of your mission. Why don't you want to do that? This is within your values. Why don't you want to do that? Are you actually a fraud? And it's like, no.
Yeah. Oh my God. I hear so much resonance within. Yeah. Oh, so many people are going to connect to that one.
Yeah. So I was just observing that, feeling the dread in my body. And as the observer of your thoughts, you get to be in charge. You get to decide what you believe in. And I was just like, yeah, no, none of that is true. It is a value of mine, but I don't have to save the world. Yeah. And the only way for me to save the world is for me to stay in my seat and do my little piece, right? Like, I can save my little puzzle piece corner of the world, and it's going to be best, and I'm going to be at my best and contribute the best when it's something that fulfills me too.
Yeah. Oh, I love everything. So as I'm listening to that, the shift that I just observe happen when you're talking about it initially as it being a thing. Yes, I definitely want to do this. All of your conversation was around what the other people were receiving. It was about, oh yeah, I'm excited for them. It's going to impact them. They feel like martyrs. Like, this is going to be such a great thing. It aligns with the mission that I have to help others. And it's all this stuff away from the body, right? Away from yourself. And then, I know. This is why Allie and I are such a great, away from your seat. And then when you said, oh, actually, wait, let me feel this. Let's see where I feel on this one. it was coming back to you of like, actually, that's not something that makes me excited.
Yes.
The impact, yeah. But we can be excited for Joe Schmo down the street doing that too. And
right,
there's
exactly.
Hundreds of people that are within their own sphere creating amazing things that we can be excited about. But that doesn't mean that we have to take it on ourselves. I love how you phrase that, because it is the comparison between, okay, what is someone else getting out of this? Okay, let me flip the script. What am I getting out of this? Yes. Is this for me?
Flip
and that again,
the script.
Yes. Whoa. Self-centered. That's coming back to yourself and what is the impact that it makes into your body, your mind, your ideals, your values, not what other people expect of you or what you think they expect of you.
Right. And when you're arguing with yourself, the body does not lie, right? So I'm curious for you, what was life like before you learned this concept? And then what has shifted for you and how do you practice it?
Gosh, I can see it in so many different aspects of my life. And like at times, if I think back to like my marriage and my divorce, I definitely saw that a lot of me extending myself for my partner and trying to make sure that they were happy and all of their needs were met. And then, but that was the very far pendulum, because me being self-centered in that moment is like, okay, hi, this person's not going to exist anymore. Me is not going to exist anymore unless I come back and say, well, I can only take care of my sphere. You got to figure this stuff out. But that's not thriving, right? That's survival. And I think about it now when I've gotten out of those like very survival situations, and it's more so, okay, what does make me feel good? Like what does create joy and life and light within my life? Where do I, walk in with excitement and enthusiasm for what's coming up next in my day, as opposed to saying, oh, I got to go do this thing. And like, I even think about my day-to-day work. I love what I do in personal trainer. I think it's fabulous. But there are times where I have to extend myself in a way that I'm like, whew, this feels like a lot. And then I contrast that like right now with what we're doing with the podcast. And I'm like, yes, I'm so excited to hop on this call, because whether it was for just us or whether it was for someone else, I'm getting something from it, right? And I get to reaffirm my choices, right? And it helps me feel in alignment with myself, right? And of course, like it supports the values and missions that I have as well. But it's like, if no one saw this, if no one hears this, I'm still stoked we did it, And the boundary setting, of course, is a bigger piece of it, is me learning how to say no to support the things that are a big yes for me. And I've even been thinking about this within my own life now. You and I have talked about this. My schedule's dumb. It's dumb. And that does happen in personal training, that you work when people are not working. So it's real early and real late. And then I got filled in. Yeah. I got filled in between. So I'm like, okay, I've got these really long days and I work 6 days a week. I'm getting to Friday and I'm like, I lived for other people for 6 days this week. And I'm just trying to recover today, which isn't living for myself. And I've had to take a step back and I'm like, oh, I need to start setting better boundaries about this. I need to start moving things around to either it's got to be convenient or it can't happen, because that's not staying in my chair, right? And maybe at first the idea, I remember like, okay, well, why did I take on all of these people? Why did I take on all of this, work? Well, because I needed to provide, right? I needed to financially make things make sense, which was a form of serving myself. But then it grew out of proportion and I forgot how to say no. And I think about, okay, well, what can continually provide me joy over the long term? And I'm like, well, if I want to do this thing, the podcast that I'm so excited about, I have to tell other people no. And I actually have to kind of backtrack on things that I have promised, which is tough. But it's like, that's the moment of being really vulnerable and really honest of like, yeah, I've loved what I've been able to do for you. And I'm sorry, I can't continue to do it. However, this is where my heart is and I need to support me because I'm the only human I got.
Yes, for sure. It just makes me think about how sometimes we do need to get up out of our seats, right? So survival, which includes making money, right? Providing for ourselves. And sometimes for a season, we're out of our seat, right? I mean, things happen. So again, none of this is all or nothing. It's just about watching, being intentional. And so for you, you needed to be out of your seat when you're building your business in the beginning, because it's like, yeah, I need to build my clients. I need to make money. And also I want a foundation. So I'm just going hard. And this, being an entrepreneur takes a lot of effing work. So it makes sense. And it's important to have the discernment to know, okay, that season does not have to continue at a certain point. And again, we can come back to ourselves and we can come back to our seat. Okay, now what can my business look like considering what I want and need now that I have this foundation and I'm making enough? And okay, now I need to fill in some of the energy sap or gaps. There's also, you brought up obligation, these promises that you've made.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about what causes us to get out of our seats when it isn't one of those exceptions in life where we need to in order to survive or to make enough money, which again is survival. FOG stands for fear, obligation, and guilt.
Oh, I knew guilt was coming in. I'm so glad you said that.
Yes. So those are three, and there's more than that, but those are three huge common reasons that we get out of our seats, right? So fear, I'm scared of how this might impact the relationship. I'm scared of the way people will interpret this and think I'm a bad, selfish person. If you really cared about me and my progress as your client, then you'd be flexible. Oh, how are people who work 9 to 5 supposed to make this work? You know, all of that, the fear of that. And so, of course, maybe in another episode, we could talk about how do we deal with that. But ultimately, the goal there is we want to face the fears that, again, going back to that signals and noise, if fear is noise, right? Meaning, yes, I guess there's no threat, because I was about to say, yes, there's a threat, but not really. But really, it's just noise. No, there's no threat. There's a perceived threat of this person is going to see me as selfish. Okay, what's the worst that'll happen? Well, they won't be my client anymore. And maybe they'll talk badly about me. Okay, well, we got to focus on the fact that we can't control other people. And in the long run, we don't want a client like that.
Yeah. Oh,
you know, in all relationships. And then obligation. Yeah. So coming back to being ambitious, being empathetic, also very conscientious. Those personality traits tend to come together, especially if you're type A and you're a heart-centered, good-hearted person. And so when you have promised something, it's like, I'm going to follow through on that. It doesn't matter if it hurts me. I have to follow through on that for the rest of my life. Even if now I realize, oh, okay, now that I've been 3 years in business, maybe I shouldn't have promised that. And doing that forever is really not going to be good for me. So it's one of those things where we need to give ourselves grace when we've obligated ourselves or agreed to something that actually is harmful to us. And I think it can be helpful. Again, I'm a visual person. So to imagine if I told this person who I have an agreement with that I can't honor that agreement anymore, and they were a person who was emotionally mature, self-aware, kind, thoughtful, all those good things, understanding, how would they respond? And they would probably respond with, yeah, that makes sense. I've been getting a deal.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's amazing. I've been paying, this little for your services, or you've been really flexing so much for me. And I'm so grateful that you did that for so long. And I appreciate you. And I'm so glad you're taking care of yourself. So that can be really helpful when it comes to obligation to think about, well, the type of people that I want in my life, if they were that type of person, how would they respond? And then I would feel okay sharing this. And I can give myself that same grace too. And if you know, okay, well, they're not going to respond that way. Okay, it's a filter. Bye.
Yeah, so true. Yeah.
And same with guilt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same with guilt. It's
Oh.
just, guilt is great when we've done something wrong, right? Because when guilt is a signal, it's signaling to us, hey, you're doing something or have done something that does not align with your values. It's like, okay, thanks for the message. I'm going to repair that with the person. I'm going to change that behavior in me so that I'm living more in alignment with my values. Signals are things that we can do something about, and guilt can be really helpful. But I would say the majority of the time, if you are a conscientious, empathetic person, usually the guilt is just noise.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All so good. And it's funny when you were talking about the obligation piece of it and like, okay, well, if I'm extending myself for so long or like offering something for, such a good value or whatnot, and then I realize it's not reasonable anymore, and I was to approach that person, how would they respond? I literally had that situation happen yesterday. Like, yeah. It's so funny that you said that because I know that the clients that I approached about this, I know that they're great people. And one of the reasons that I didn't want to move them was because they are life-giving people. When I meet with them, I'm like, oh my God, I feel so energized. Even if they're not like my highest tier or anything, I'm like, it's enjoyable and valuable to me to work with these people. They just generally ask like, oh, how you doing when we're doing our stretching and warm up? And I'm like, well, this is what I'm dealing with. And I'm trying to figure out how I can move forward with my schedule. Might have to touch base with you guys in a couple months on some adjustments. And they were like, oh, we're fine with anything. Like, we know that you are giving yourself constantly. And like, you've been so supportive and you've been here and you've been, accommodating for us. We are happy to flex to whatever works best for you. And I'm just like, gosh. My heart. And me in my doomsday brain, because, that's apparently how my brain has been wired in previous parts of my life. Me thinking about, oh man, what that conversation is going to look like. The first thing that I go to is like, oh, they're going to be so upset. They're not going to be able to work with me anymore. I'm going to lose this, stream of income. I'm going to upset these people that I've made friendships with. There's going to be loss, right? Loss. Big fear, right? Big fear. And then you take a step back and if you're looking through the lens of, okay, well, what do I know to be true about these people that I'm considering this interaction with? I know that they're good people. I wouldn't like working with them otherwise. I know that they're conscientious. They are empathetic as well. They have been through hard seasons in their life. And they have also had to learn how to create boundaries themselves. If I was to bring this situation to them, yes, they would respond very similarly to exactly how they did. Oh, we're so supportive of you. We appreciate everything that you've done. We can flex however you need to flex. And it's so affirming. And I think that's something to remember too, when you're trying to stay in your chair is, okay, we can let the fear and the obligation, the guilt run its hamster wheel in our head forever. But take a step back and what do we know to be true about the people and the scenarios? Yes. And just like you're saying, if it's not going to work out for your good, they're probably not people that you want anyways, or that's not an environment you want to be with anyways. We see this in like corporate America all the time too, when it's like, okay, well, if you brought this limitation that you need to create within your workspace to make it make sense for you in terms of life, if you brought this and asked for an accommodation to your employer and they were like, nah, fuck off. Is that really a company that you would want to work for? And we can say really clearly, no, I'm going to go find a new job. Yes. But doing that with relationships feels a lot harder, but it's kind of the same. Like you're trying to protect your energy and you're trying to protect yourself. And whether it's a relationship or whether it's a workplace, they're both heavily impacting your life. And it's valid to say, I don't think I could do it. Yeah. And sometimes it's yes. And sometimes it's not a toxic workplace or a toxic person. It just works out that you can't work together. It's not for you. Yeah. Right. It's just not for you. So let's say that you shared with those clients, hey, unfortunately, I'm only able, let's say it's a scheduling thing, right? So I'm only able to meet with you actually between this time and this time on these days in this location. And if they say, oh, that's such a bummer, we're not able to do that. Loved working with you though. You're both going to be sad about it. And
that it is what it is. That's what needed to happen. So it doesn't always have to be this like right, wrong, they were toxic, got rid of them, filter out.
Yeah.
But again, I think looking at the big picture of, yes, in the short run, bummer that it's not compatible to work with those clients anymore. And in the long run, it's taking care of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think just a affirmation for anyone who struggles with staying in their chair and like the aftermath of staying in their chair. I think of the interactions that have both gone positively and negatively when I've stayed in my chair. Things where I've, created that boundary and said, this isn't going to work for me, or this isn't for me. And it's been received, as well as when I've done that and it's been rejected or negatively received, or there's a fallout. It's still just a drop in the bucket. When we were talking about this topic, I was struggling initially to come up with, okay, well, where are these times? Even though I know I've been doing it consistently, because the impact of when it's been a fallout is actually not that like hard in the grand scheme of things. A year out, a month out, 10 years out, I'm just like, oh yeah, that was a choice I had to make and I'm still here. And I feel good about myself and I feel proud of myself for making the choice to stay in my seat. Whether that was positively received or negatively received, it was still a good thing. And getting over that fear, obligation, guilt, and that hurdle of, okay, this feels like a really big, scary thing to set this boundary. Just know on the other side of that boundary, you're going to be okay. It's going to be good. And it's going to be even better because now you did something that supports you and your body will remember, hey, I trusted myself and I can trust myself again on the next step and again on the next step. And over time, the hurdles that keep us from staying in our seat will feel less aggressive, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like because we're providing experiences for ourselves that go well.
Yeah.
Right. And so, they're not always going to go well, but some of them are. And so that's challenging the beliefs schemas, I'm using therapy words. Hold on. Challenging the belief systems that you've developed and that have been wired through your experiences of you and I have very good reason or did in the past to believe that it was going to go really badly if we didn't listen to the fear, the obligation, and the guilt and just do what it says because we were in toxic relationships. We were in toxic situations. And so now when we can take a calculated risk and say, no, I'm not getting out of my seat. I've thought about this. I've tuned into my body, this fear, this obligation, this guilt, it's just noise. And think about the long run and what does this take care of me or not? And we take that calculated risk, then there are going to be times when it goes well. And yes, then that challenges those belief systems and we feel even more confident. But even more than that, boundaries are actively filtering out the people who are not for us. And so our life starts to reflect back to us. People start reflect back to us that yes, your boundaries are understandable. Your boundaries are valid. I support you. And so we can start seeing ourselves clearer as well, which gives us the confidence to stay in our seats.
Yeah.
So it's really, the beginning is the hardest part.
I remember when I was at that place where I realized, oh my gosh, I really have to set some boundaries with this person in my family, and this probably isn't going to go well. But I was so shocked by their response, even so. Like, I knew it was going to be bad, but I didn't know it was going to be that bad. And then so much of the rest of my family had a really bad response. And then I started realizing and seeing all these patterns in my friendships, and I was like, okay, wow. this was because I abandoned myself.
And so there was a period of time where there was so much loss and there was emptiness. There was this transition. And I thought of it as this bridge that I was walking, and I was walking by myself, and I didn't have friends who really got it. I had a few good friends who made the cut, but they didn't get it. They didn't get what I had been through. And so I was alone walking through this, and it was really scary. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to feel better again, ever. Right. Even if my life changes, it just changed my brain in such a way. And what ended up happening is that staying in my seat filtered in the right people.
Ooh, yeah.
And now it's easier and easier and easier. And it's this positive feedback loop of now I'm not alone. And what's actually true is I'd always been alone, right? That time in my life where I was walking that bridge feeling alone, I was thinking, oh, wow, I had all these losses. But guess what? Those were one-sided relationships.
Ooh, yeah.
So yeah. I was alone while just fully giving myself away.
Yeah.
And so I think that's also important for all of you listening, is just think about the long run and think about that light at the end of the tunnel, and that you are creating a life that takes care of you, relationships that take care of you.
Yeah.
So be self-centered, y'all.
Yeah. So if we were to do a takeaway today of like what someone could do this week to stay in their chair, right? What would you say, like your top 1 to 3 things that you're like, this is step 1, 2, and 3 for staying in my seat? How do I start to do that? What's the takeaway?
So everyone listening, I love Katie because she's like intentionally being like, these are the parameters, Allie, which is great because I need it. Okay. Number 1 is red light, green light. It's think about your week. Think about the things that you have planned or the requests that have been made of you, and tune into your body. What is it doing? Is it a red light or is it a green light? And then I guess number 2 would be watch your thoughts, literally observe them. Just watch them. What are they doing? Just start to notice the patterns of, okay, am I starting to argue with this red light that I noticed because I want to deny it?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh boy.
Yeah. I don't want to deal with the discomfort of setting a boundary, saying no, right? Or maybe it's a boundary with yourself. Maybe it's, no, you can't do all that, girl. Like, you need to take care of yourself and you need to rest a little bit too, you know, or all work and no play. So watch your thoughts and notice if you're arguing with yourself. And then number 3, I would say, once you've figured out this is what would take care of me, then you do it regardless of how it feels. So if you feel guilty, but you know that guilt is noise, right? So it's not a signal sending you a message that you're doing something wrong by saying no. It's noise, meaning it's just radio static. Then you just want to do the opposite of what guilt says.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's a phrase that I say a lot, and this only comes after you've done that portion of the work, the red light, green light, the checking in, that sort of thing. Don't think, just do.
Yes. Yes.
Once you've decided, don't think about it anymore. Just do the thing. Just follow through with the thing.
Yes.
Just do it. Nike, I'm going to get flagged by a trademark person, but don't think, just do.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we'll see how it goes.
For sure. And every time you notice, your brain is naturally more thoughts are going to come in when you're just doing. Mm-hmm. Notice the thoughts, go back to just doing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thoughts are coming in, talking me out of it. Oh, right. Thoughts, go back to just doing.
Yeah. And it's probably an affirmation that you're doing the right thing.
Yes, for sure.
If we've been conditioned a certain way for so long, and we know that we're trying to change our habits, trying to change our life, trying to change our relationships, then those thoughts creeping in of, oh, well, no, you can't be doing that. That's an affirmation that you are on the right path.
Yes.
That you are making the choices to change your life. You truly want to change your life, you have to deal with the discomfort of those thoughts are going to come in to try to keep you the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And if you all have any thoughts or any questions or need any help with this, we can do more episodes going into anything specifically. We're on Instagram, selfcentered.pod. Yes. Send us a message and maybe we'll do an episode on it, or we can answer your question, or all of the above.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally foresee us doing a like, am I the asshole? But is this me staying in my seat? Like, like this is my scenario. And then it's like, okay, well, we can walk you through an idea. What's the thoughts behind this? Yeah, for sure. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love that. All right. I think that's it for today.
We crushed it. I love it. Got so many things. And I'm sitting down, so I'm going to stay right here.
Yeah,
staying in my seat. Yep.
All right, y'all. Stay in your seat and stay self-centered.
And we'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Follow us on Instagram at selfcentered.pod or connect with us at selfcenteredthepod@gmail.com.
Stay self-centered, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Peace.